if you want to.
You can clamp if you want as well. I don't know exactly what that entails, but you are free to do it if you'd like. We are primed and ready, and on your screen you see the operator ban phase. G2 starts on defense here on Consulate. They're going to get rid of Zero. This is an operator that has been trotted out by DarkZero many times before. Tends to go into the hands of Eclipse. This will likely push Eclipse onto Nomad for most of the matchup.
Assuming Nomad's not banned here, and it's not, DarkZero will get rid of Thatcher. I like this. This is standard stuff. The Nomad being available, yeah, probably going to be very often played on Consulate. This is one of her best maps. Let's get into the Defender bans. Valkyrie, also, this is one of her best maps as well. You add that to, let's say Cafe and Consulate. Those are probably her top two in competitive rotation. Final Defender ban. I don't know if we'll see Amira. She's not always that useful here, and we won't. It's going to be a Wamai ban. I think that makes a lot more sense. Sometimes we see Jaeger bans on Consulate. We have seen that earlier today, in fact. Sometimes we see Wamai bans, and the reason is just because of how you can use nades on this map to get pick after pick after pick. And if it's just Jaeger or just Wamai, it's much easier to do that.
Absolutely correct. Also, I couldn't help but notice that when you talked about the Zero ban and then you immediately followed up by saying DarkZero, that there's some kind of maybe branding opportunities in there for DZ.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if they ever do, you know...
Evil Zero, the operator, DarkZero.
What if they did, like, esports elite skins, Parker?
Isn't that what the R6 share program is? Am I crazy?
I mean, elite skins. So, like, you could have the literal DarkZero. I mean, if it ever happened...
You've lost me.
No, really?
You completely lost me.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it'd be cool.
Eclipse is on Sledge, by the way. The hands of Nomad is going to be NJR. So NJR has been one of the best performing players at this entire event. So kudos to him. And obviously, you're going to put him on that flank watch role. And that was the craziest part that didn't get discussed enough, I think, in the previous matchup with DZ was that NJR is getting all of these kills, but he's not your main point of entry. You've got players like Hyper and Panbazou who are going to be the ones leading the charge into the building, but it's NJR on cleanup and doing a mighty fine job of it. Call him the janitor because he's taking out the trash.
Yeah, sometimes that second entry or that support or flex role, in this case NJR is put on flank watch, can be one of your top performers if you are putting him in the position to do his job well, and he does not mess up. And I got to tell you, NJR does not mess up. At least not very often. Everybody does.
I'm curious to see what Hyper's Amaru is going to do, by the way. This will be fun to watch. She's a she's an incredibly linear operator. You basically have one usage from her, and that's get in, possibly kill, and then maybe get out.
Yeah, usually you're not getting out. Normally it'll be a trade, but it depends. We'll see. Now, what we see here is the upside down repel from Hyper on CEO Windows.
Does he know he can just repel into the building?
He probably doesn't want to die like Hyper just did, actually. Well, look at that.
Yeah, he doesn't want to die like he did?
Yeah, he doesn't want to die like he did, Parker.
Well, the Amaru experiment comes to a screeching halt 45 seconds into the round. Jonka gets the very first kill.
Good start there for G2. You like to see that on defensive Consulate, getting those early picks. It means you've got confidence.
Drone's up and running.
I mean, the way G2 played earlier is any indication, then I think confidence is something that they'll hang on to. Humbling the reigning defending world champions, who themselves are not in the best spot in this group, but there's still plenty of time to play through. It really does depend on what DWG Kia does later today. For the meantime, this downstairs defense from G2 has them spread out across the first floor and then the basement as well. Panbazou with the signal coming in on the drone from bathroom. Well, I was going to say I would know that somebody was there, but I think the gun bullets and gunfire and that will probably give it away.
Yeah, and no pick for either team off of this
no.
really close proximity by Z. And the angle from Citizen does a little bit of damage, but Eclipse is the one to die to Hungry at top banana. It's a good pick there for G2, and look at this hole made by the Ash. Panbazou's trying to utilize it, but the gas canisters are stopping him. In a second for Hungry, still top banana, he'll descend. DZ are falling by the wayside in this first round.
Same spot, NJR looking for one for his own team. He sees the feet, nice shot from him right as the ADS is. There's a lot more work to be done for DarkZero as they're just simply outclassed.
They are being
outgunned at the moment. 4v2 for G2.
Yeah, there's not a lot that DZ is going to be able to do here in all likelihood, and especially as you see CTZN starting to batten up all the hatches, and these last 4 defenders bringing it right back to the site, not going to give any opportunities to NJR, who they know to be a potent force. Just take the round win.
They're still certain that there's somebody on that upstairs floor, but there's nobody up there. He and BC in tandem with one another, trying to hunt down a shadow on the top floor. Instead, they'll go down the spiral stairs, and Hungry will be there waiting, looking for kills 3 and 4. He'll get them both. A 4K from Hungry to give G2 the very first round, and that's the start that the Europeans need if they want to keep this one close and potentially prevail against DarkZero.
Hungry, one of the most vetted players in this entire lobby right now, and he's had some ups and downs in his career, some time off, some time on as well. But he's here, screaming loud in the first round, 4K. That does speak a lot to the depth on G2, as the typical fraggers and CTZN didn't really need to do a whole lot in that round. Now, G2 getting the lead off is not the end for DZ, obviously. They did get some unlucky positioning there, some bad starts, and it is possible we'll see them batten up all the hatches. I already used that one. Let's say...
Yeah, but you said batten up the hatches, and I wanted to correct you then. I'm going to correct you now. It's batten down the hatches.
Really?
Yeah. You batten down
Technically,
the
you could do it either way, though, right? Because if it's literally a hatch, then, I mean, it could be done from either direction.
Yeah, but you're battening them down.
I mean, the batten is the main implication, right? No, but it could be done either. Well, I mean, okay. I can see the point that I
there are
smashed.
experts in Twitch chat.
I smashed the idiom.
You did.
I smashed the idiom. I could see that point.
Turn up for what?
Turn up for everything, Parker.
First round goes in favor of G2, and I like the bait and switch that happened, by the way. CTZN playing over by Viso was designed to attract the attention of anybody from DarkZero that was playing by Yellow Stairs. That includes the connector that leads to Piano that we refer to as Zulu, or Zed. And then Hungry just sat at the top spiral stairs, and he remained undroned for the entirety of
Banana.
Spiral stairs.
No, because spiral's the top part of the spiral staircase, you know? And if they're both spiral stairs, then which one's the spiraliest of the stairs? So the bottom one's banana.
But they're still stairs.
Yeah, it's just you know, it's just a convenient call out. By the way, in the reveal, did you hear that Jeremy used the word banana on bank? That was really cool. Anyway, focusing in on this game.
I swear to God.
G2 have yet to get the early pick like they did last time, but they are fishing for it. DZ very cautious, going for an admin office take. And they're going to go for the rappel in here. Hyper, first in, tip of the spear. He's got the scan on the feet. Jekyll being available on consulate is really big. It's going to help them a lot.
And it's CTZN who'll be chased down on that bottom floor and try to evade the eyes of whoever from DarkZero ends up in that particular area. And Hyper's actually allowed in the building this time. You can't have Hyper being the very first to die time and time again. Yes, NJR has been the name on the tip of our tongues for the last 24 hours. But Hyper has been one of the most consistent players in his region for years now. And if he's not able to exert that influence for DZ, then DZ are going to find themselves consistently fighting from behind.
Also, NJR is playing decidedly, you know, flank-focused roles right now. He is in Visa office, which is the flank of DarkZero right now, trying to prevent C4s from below or just anyone coming up Visa stairs. Kayak actually is trying to address this, challenging NJR right now in a direct gunfight. But Hyper is the one to get the lead-off pick. You talked about him earlier. He's been sat down by Jonka, though, so it's an exchange for these teams.
Jonka's 2-0, by the way, and both those kills are Hyper. The teams will trade back and forth, leaving us at an even 3v3. The focus for the bomb site is down in lobby, though much of that action is currently happening up top, upstairs. They've got clearance upstairs, or so they thought. Kayak retakes, though, and down goes Panbazou. Where was he? Down below, playing that long angle. Look at this. All of G2 currently just smushed over by the yellow stairs. Eclipse's position at the top of Spiral gets spotted out on the default cam.
No, the top one is Spiral. The bottom one is Banana. BC inside a CEO looking to drop into sight, but that's not going to be an easy thing to do. Eclipse is going to have to open that up for him. There's no other way. C4 will miss from G2, and that makes it a little bit easier for DarkZero, but the thing that's not going to make it easy is the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Only 20 seconds left. Eclipse's focus being upstairs means that he'll be the one to cover for BC. But the 3 players from G2 will be hunting him down, hoping for that one to be able to pull it off. Oh, but BC drops, outdueling Citizen, just running out of bullets. So the Eclipse is the next one down. 5 seconds left, spraying away. It's a hopeless endeavor, and G2 are up 2-0.
Solid round there from G2 and a very slow clear for DarkZero. They looked woefully unprepared for that attack. And now, you know, the first attack, you got to kind of just write it off. Yeah, DarkZero been looking on and off, good and bad through this tournament, and so you don't want to count it too early. But that second round looked much like the first one in that it was really not great coordination from DZ. They cleared admin office, and then what did they do? A whole lot of nothing for about a minute, I'd say. They try to convert into a clear for the full top floor, and they get that, but it costs way too much manpower. They lose their flank watch downstairs, and there's not a lot of answer back on those kills. And then, you've got 20 seconds left when you're trying to hit the site? It's just way too late in the round.
Well, an unfortunate result for DarkZero, and that sluggishness that came out was not exactly what you want to see. If you want to support G2, by the way, as they are currently up 2-0, and we all know that you like to change your allegiance based upon which team is doing better, you can buy the G2 Vigil skin that is presently available in-game.
Yes.
It's quite nice.
It is a nice skin. I really like what they did with the mask.
DarkZero also has some gun skins in the game, but they don't have a uniform.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to support DarkZero, you can do that as well through the R6 Share program. A set of the proceeds go back to the teams and Rainbow Six Esports across the board.
Good way to support your favorite team is by purchasing their skins whenever you see them available. Now, this setup here for G2, very interesting. You've got the castle, you've got the Melusi, lots of stuff for the attackers to clear out. It's an Archives Teller's defense, which means it's on 2 different floors, lots for the attack to clear. So it's the utility clear and it's ground that must be covered for DarkZero. And considering how slow their attacks have been thus far, especially on a shallow map like Consulate, I think this is going to be difficult for them.
See what kind of crafty setups G2 might have, as now through the 2 rounds that we've witnessed them, they have not gone with the conventional. That was something that G2 did last night when they played their matches, and I can't say it was very successful. Both times in the matches that we saw in which G2 went 0-2 for the day, they played very standard stuff, didn't seem like themselves. The earlier matchup today definitely looked like vintage G2, one of the top teams in the world, one of the top teams in EU so far this season. Can play up to. Right now, trying not to read into it too much through 2 rounds, though. G2 look like they're in significantly better form than when they were on Chalet yesterday against DZ.
I wonder what it was that got the morale back up. I'm happy that it happened, though, because it's always nice to see this competition. Panbazou on the cut here, trying to deny any rotation by Long Desk as the rest of his teammates attempt to clear top floor from admin office over. But once again, Parker, I have to point out that this is, I mean, not necessarily excruciatingly slow, but on the slower side of an admin clear is what we're seeing here from DarkZero.
That's 90 seconds through the round. There's a pulse all the way down in the server, by the way, giving calls, and that's Hungry. With that cardiac sensor, you can see up through those 2 floors, and that's exactly what he's done. Noticing the players that are presently up in admin. As the hatch is opened up, and Eclipse will continue to tear away with the floor. Hyper will go on to drone to help the rest of his team. Look at how close G2 is right now. Yeah, they're just a floor below, but if they've got nitro cells in their hands, this could be an explosive end for DarkZero.
Oh, nice shot from Hyper. You can't tell because we didn't see it, but you could tell thanks to the sound. There's at least one, I think probably 2 shots there. Well done there to start things off. And you need to get kills like that if you're Hyper to open things up for your team. That is your role. Hungry going to eat some damage as well. Put down bad. About 5-10 HP. He's going to have trouble in future engagements. Hopefully he'll be able to use the cardiac sensor well.
Grenade goes down, and DZ are sweeping through G2 right now, wiping the floor with them. A flawless round brewing for DarkZero, as Citizen and Hungry will be left to stand against G2's army. Citizen's retaken from above. Plant going down, and Hungry's being tracked by Jackal. Just like that, Hungry goes down, so Citizen will have to get in closer to the site. There'll be one watching in that direction. Not a flawless round, not yet. Citizen will secure onto NJR, but the diffuser goes down. For G2 this round seems like it's in an incredibly hard spot. And there you go. DZ and Eclipse in particular get that very final kill, and with it they pick up their first round so far on this map.
Good take there from DZ. I will say again, it was somewhat slow on the initial clear upstairs in admin office, but once that job was done, It was kill after kill after kill for DarkZero. There wasn't a lot of answer back. In fact, there was none. You don't really count those kills at the end of the round. And a big part of that, I think, is because G2 were so well contained. Yeah, the Pulse was in play, but he was on the bottom floor, which means no C4 potential. He tried to rotate up to the middle floor so he could C4 the players in admin office, but it was too little too late at that point because Sledge had opened up so many rotation cut holes from above. And that is where we saw Hungry die on that Pulse. So G2, very well contained from DarkZero, or by DarkZero. Words are hard. And given that containment, there is a little bit of faith starting to be stoked here for DarkZero. I mean, considering the first 2 rounds, I was almost in a position where I was like, where's DarkZero? They decided to show up today? I'm a little curious. But no, they give us something good. I think they still need to speed things up, but yeah, it's good attack.
Well, it's certainly a far more competitive group than I think some people were anticipating. I know you and I, being NA League casters, had our reservations about DarkZero coming into this.
Yep.
Some of the EU casters that we spoke with, and EU analysts, shared similar sentiments about G2, not really understanding what was going to go on with EU. Overall, the region as a whole, not looking as strong as they have through the 2 days or a day and a half. There's still time to change that. BDS looks like one of the scariest teams of the tournament.
Yeah, they do. It's interesting to watch BDS because they've had struggles elsewhere, but here it looks routine for them.
It does. And with G2, if you're a fan of EU, I know that the G2 org has won just about everything there is to win in Rainbow Six through many times past. You wanted a good showing from G2, especially to keep this group competitive. For us, we never care who actually ends up winning as long as there's a good show. And so far, these 3 rounds have been about as good as we could have hoped for.
I like well-played Siege. It's nice to watch.
It really is.
So G2 on the roam upstairs here, trying to delay as long as they can. So far, they haven't had to do any job, but you could still say they've done a good job because DarkZero have spent a minute clearing admin office. Not the slowest, but it could be faster.
We've definitely seen teams clear out Consulate quicker than what we've seen from DarkZero thus far. That doesn't necessarily mean that DZ are slow.
Yep.
There were a couple times when on that Chalet matchup, DZ was slow against G2, but you know what? Through the mid-round, it did work.
Yeah.
There was patience. That was the word that you used to describe it. There was great patience from DarkZero before, and it certainly seems like it's here now.
Well, they need to have that same lethality, though, that they had on Chalet here on Consulate. We'll see if that transfers. CTZN will drop. Virtue still upstairs, and he will follow. There you go. G2 have vacated the top floor.
Half the round gone, not a single ticket damage done to anybody in the server.
Oh, he's going back.
CTZN does not want to relinquish this spot on yellow stairs. He'll hang on to it, fight tooth and nail for it, and oh my. The Malusi is going off, but DZ realize, hey, if they're all roaming, we'll just take the site for our own. Piper and Panbazou walk right in, and they just crush them. Jonka goes down, and Virtue in a 1v5. What is he going to do to be able to pull this one off? He's not going to do anything. That's the answer to our question as Panbazou sits him down. DZ tie things up. They didn't even need to get the diffuser down as it's 2-2 with a flawless from DarkZero.
First 2 rounds were quite shaky, Parker, but that round right there was definitive, obviously, given in that it was a flawless. I absolutely adore the mid-round shot call by DarkZero to commit to that sight hit. Many teams would have just spent the entire round chasing the roamers. And yeah, DZ are being somewhat slow, and yeah, you could call it patience. But I mean, it worked very well that round. Just because they can't translate it some rounds doesn't mean they won't be able to in others. It's kind of like it's kind of like Cyclops, you know? Like Cyclops is going to have their rounds where they're brazen, aggressive play that is very smart because it's coordinated. I'm not trying to call it dumb or bad. But they'll have rounds where that works great for them, and then they'll have rounds where that just falls flat. And I think we're seeing a similar but opposite type deal here with DarkZero.
Well, you try some rounds to change things up.
Yeah.
I think NIP was probably the best example we can think back to this. When Ninjas in Pajamas and SSG played in that fateful grand final back in SI 2020, the one thing that NIP did so well was that they never let up on pressure. Whether they were slow, whether they were fast, they were always setting the tempo. And they were always just as lethal. That lethality that you talked about, they were always just as lethal because they were in the driver's seat when it came to the pacing and the tempo of the match.
I'm of the... actually, you know what? We'll talk about this later. The round is starting, and it's kind of a long-winded conversation. Now, G2, lots of fragging potential on that lineup. Take a look at that, all those operators. There's one key focus here for G2, and that is take fights, win fights. And that's apparent from the ops that they are picking here. The one exception, of course, would be Echo, but I mean, we saw Hungry get a 4K with Echo earlier in the match, so I mean, he's not playing it right now, but it looks like it might be another sight hit direct through yellow. This is on the middle floor. Here comes the sledgehammer.
Oh my, and it just gets torn right through. Trying to do something to it with CTZN, but Hungry falls first, and now control of the site is at least theirs. But inside the site, Diffuser is now down, and it's surrendered right in front of Kayak. Will sit over top of it. He's trapped in the corner, though, between a rock and a hard place. Can he make his way out? No, the grenade claims his soul, so CTZN is the one forced to go into action. Virtue has a line of sight on it from above. He could potentially net something, but he misses his opportunity, doesn't give himself away, giving information to the rest of his team. He can rotate through the hatch if he wants to. Eclipse takes out Jonka. So DZ walk away from this brawl with the upper hand. For how long, though? There's still half of the round to go, and CTZN wins that duel against Eclipse. It's short-lived as he's punished for it, and Virtue is left against the rest of DarkZero. A 1v2, but his position is from above. Still winnable. They don't really have the intel that they want. NJR holds on to the diffuser, but he's only at half HP. Virtue's position finally given away, shooting through the floor. NJR should have no problem being able to complete this one. If Virtue goes for the drop, the death drop, as we can often refer to it as, then it might be extremely challenging for him to pull something off. And you can look at that look on his face tells you everything you need to know. Manages to take out NJR, a miraculous shot. That was a bit of greediness from the little HP of NJR that was left, trying to soften up Virtue. So the newest member of DarkZero, Panbazou, plucked from the Tier 2 scene, can give DarkZero the lead here as long as Panda plays this one a little bit conservatively. Air jab goes off and Virtue's spot is known. He's running out of time. You've got to hurry, mate. 12 seconds, 10 seconds, he's on it. So Panbazou needs to get to it. Does he know what's going off? He hears it. You've got to run. 1 second left. No! What a rookie mistake! Bad comms from DZ. We don't know the culprit, but Virtue himself is surprised by that one. And G2 steal the round away.
Wow. All right. So, first of all, great call there from DZ. I love the rush play. It worked great. There was not much of a hold by Yellow Stairs on G2's side. It was basically free. They convert that into firm site control real quick. I love their Repellent as well. Good pincer movement from DZ. They get site control now. They establish man advantage through their excellent trading. And then right at the end after that, let's get to it. Right at the end after that plant, yeah, obviously NJR out of position. Unfortunate first pick. But it gets so much worse when we switch to Panbazou. Not only did he mistime his control of that diffuser, which can happen, he also messed up his Ash Charge from below. He tried to use an Ash Charge underneath to open below the diffuser so he could hold it from an advantageous angle. And he just missed because he shot up from Yellow Stairs instead of just going under the diffuser. Don't rush your play. And then, that's the funny thing, he rushed his play with the Ash Charge, and then he was too slow with the diffuser. I mean, it's comical for us as the spectators. We can watch and we can laugh about it. But it is crushing for DarkZero, who really ought to have won that round. This reminds me a little bit of the DZ match we had yesterday, where they brought it to 8-7, and they almost managed to beat Ninjas in Pajamas. Yeah, there were so many little mistakes like that where NIP capitalized, and we just saw G2 capitalize. Good job to Virtue for doing that.
I mean, you saw, we are both of Virtue's faces.
Yeah, right.
The first face where he made that, it's a universal symbol for I'm in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And then he ends up pulling it off. And the elation on his face, and, well, frankly, the surprise, because I do think it was a very surprising result for G2. But
jubilation as well.
We don't want to fixate on it too much.
Yep.
So we'll now move on to the very final defensive round. A tie is perfectly available right now if DarkZero pulls it out on this round. It was their round to lose before, Michael, and, well, they lost it. So this time around, you need much better success. It'll be a defense upstairs. This is the first console office defense for G2. as they've now played all 4 sites.
Last defense as well, as you mentioned, it's going to be an important one. If G2 go up 4-2, then all the potential that DZ has, well, I mean, they are the OT kings, so maybe they'll be able to bring us all the way. But it's going to be difficult. So control of the balcony and control of admin office here for DarkZero. Standard speed for them as of late. Push towards Soda. G2's only got 3 players on this top floor to rebuff and attack. 2 roamers off-site. Virtue by Banana and Citizen by the main lobby. Now, he's also got Hungry supporting from Zulu. Right now, though, DZ are focused entirely on the site. They should be able to get an execute off here, whether they know it or not.
Oh, they're going to test Hyper's reflexes as he stands on the stairs looking into the A-bomb site. One over by Connector, and even though he's got that Inox visor on, there'll be some smoke to stop him as 2 toxic canisters come out. Oh. Are these a little too early? We're not entirely sure because, well, Nitro Cell also goes off. 30 seconds left. Everybody's still alive. Citizen trying out dual Panbazou, but on Repel, Panbazou is better. Shrugs off some more damage from the window. Jonka with the DMR trying his best to help his team out, but it's Hungry to get the kill on BC. Virtue has made his way down below. If NJR doesn't spot this, then Virtue will be able to strike, heading up spiral stairs. NJR knows this. There he goes. Virtue punished for his transgressions. Hyper also gets dropped. It's a total mess right now. These teams just dueling back and forth. But Jonka, he's the star of that round and of the first half. G2 comes out ahead 4-2.
Yeah, and this could easily be a 3-3, but that's just not how the cookie crumbled. We've got 4 rounds now for G2, and they are looking much better than they did yesterday. I really gonna have to bring that up. It's great to see them make that full recovery and show us that they are a team that can compete at this level. We all knew it was true, but now we're seeing the proof. DarkZero, on the other hand, a little disappointing. I can't beat around that bush. A lot of these attacks have been kind of loose, very slow, and again, that patience, it can work for you. It's definitely viable in certain situations, but those situations are usually when you're getting picks off of the patience. G2 is just ignoring DZ, and we should focus on that. G2 clearly knows how DarkZero plays. They have clearly read into it, and they're saying, okay, if you're going to set up passive angles and expect us to peek into those angles, we're not going to. That's what G2 said throughout the defensive half, and now on attack, this is where DarkZero, on defense actually, can start to change that tempo.
10 seconds to insertion.
We'll see what they put together. We'll revisit the operator bans now from both sides, just as something to touch upon before the action unfolds on our screen. Zero banned out by G2. DarkZero off attack. That ban will no longer hinder them. G2's defensive ban was on Wamai. So a little bit of denial. Jaeger is available. DZ not opting to go with much denial at all, in fact, if you look at it. If Wamai is banned, then Jaeger and Aruni end up being the 2 that get brought so frequently. Malusi can also work to soak up some of that utility, but she's also not being brought. Instead, DZ are going with Intel and then Intel denial. So they're going to try to beat G2 to the punch here. With the way that G2 are swinging and hitting their shots, that might not be a terrible idea, but Hyper stops the ensuing push. They'll double up on BC. He doesn't bring anybody down with him. That's a brazen play. Eclipse now on the flank as Panbazou takes down Virtue and DarkZero regains a numbers advantage.
Now, G2 is in sight with Hungry, but he is on an island. No support, except for the support from the Repel, but that's very limited. Barely even a factor here. All that can do is cut the rotation from Piano Door. And DZ knows that there's no plant going down, and they know they don't need to force this. They will take the patient route. They have control of the situation despite having lost their own site. That's great patience that actually works much better for DZ on defense.
NJR will command the hatch above. He's also got the opening in through the main door. This is a lobby defense, just in case you hadn't been paying attention.
G2 are just waiting for picks to happen. They're having trouble with the idea of forcing an engagement, and they're expecting DZ to want to retake site, but it's just not happening.
Well, I mean, look at the lineup for DZ.
Yeah.
not only do you have the stall from the Legion, but then you've got 3 operators who are going to be thwarting your ability to gain that information. This is what I said. They wanted to take that info away from G2 and then beat them in the ensuing fight.
And they've done that.
Speaking of intel, Hyper has one, and he's going to do some extensive damage, but Hungry walks away from that one. He's trapped in the bathroom, and he knows that this is a tough spot to find himself in. Kayak needs the all clear and the go-ahead to rappel on into Piano. Will he be able to get it? Jonka's going to hit one of those goo mines. Eclipse is there for an easy finish, and the numbers for G2 will continue to dwindle at this point. Cut him off a rope. Kayak swings in. He'll go for broke. Hungry on such low HP, and Kayak finds that there's actually no real contest here. He could conceivably get that diffuser down. A pre-fire from Hungry will net absolutely nothing. Another kill from Eclipse comes in, and now Kayak in a 1v4 to close out the final 40 seconds of this round. They know he's in Piano. They could hear his gun firing away. But what is he going to be able to do with it? Toying around the bomb chassis, this is just DZ playing with their food, and they'll finally consume them whole.
The structure there from DZ and the patience. It's the same exact patience that we saw on attack, but this time it is on G2 to initiate. They're on attack. They have to do things. So because G2 are the ones forced into the driver's seat, and DarkZero are not dealing with a ridiculously passive G2 roster, they are able to get the picks that they desire. So DarkZero, because of getting those picks, find themselves in a great position. And they don't even care that they lost site control because, I mean, what does it matter? There's no plant going down. They have firm control of the objective, all the plant spots. Yeah, there's no one in bathroom anymore, but we'll retake when it's necessary. And that's exactly what DarkZero did. So many more amateur teams would have rushed straight into the site as soon as they lost it. Not so here for DZ. And it's really interesting to see the way that patience works on defense so well, but not on attack, just because of who's doing the initiating.
Yep. Well, the setup from G2 worked out exactly as they had intended, and it's a beautiful thing to see that. The one big compliment that we've given to DZ over the last 2 days is just simply how much more structured they look. And to some casual viewers, it might sound like we're pandering to DarkZero, but I can promise you that's not the
10
case.
seconds to insertion.
In fact, I feel like I've made fun of DZ more than just about any other org.
5 seconds
Yeah, I
to
mean,
go.
if you watch...
Except for, yeah, I was going to say United when they were around, but I used to make fun of them a lot.
I mean, you know, they're doing better now.
Burns knows that I like him.
Yeah, no, but I mean, if you watch the NAL, you will definitely hear plenty of critique for DZ when the casts are up. And there's still plenty that's been had through this match. It's not done yet, though. It'll go both ways, and it has done. Plenty to commend as well, as these teams are competing at what is currently the premier event to be competing at.
Absolutely.
Hungry on Bathroom Rappel. Looks like G2 wants to go for possibly a top floor clear. Maybe from CEO. They've already opened up that above that rotation on the staircase there. That's going to prevent you from going up Visa staircase as a defender. Very powerful.
Nice big line of sight that goes in. Default will fall out, and Hungry repels in, looking for a rotate that leads to the top of Yellow Stairs, but he won't find one. He'll continue to hunt, as he's just going in dry at this point. There's no extensive drone work being done. Down below, near the garage, inside a cafeteria, there's BC trying to quarterback a play. The hatch opens up, and Hungry could be able to give himself a nice line of sight if he continues to work away at this, and I don't know if he's going to be able to see into the bathroom from that angle. Eclipse is wary of it, though. The double reinforced panel might stop him, but if there's a brief window at the top, Hungry could potentially pick it up.
Nothing too interesting happening so far. G2 got that top floor control. They want to turn it into middle floor control, because once they've done that, they can start opening above. Now, the Buck can do it from the top floor. It's much less efficient, but you can do it. NJR will take a lot of damage from that nade. A lot. And that's going to put him in a bad position in further engagements, but he still has those 3 gas canisters. So of all of the operators to lose that HP, Smoke's definitely the best option for the defense, because he can do damage from afar.
Indisputably so. So there's roughly about a minute left for G2 to get to the building. They faltered on the setup from DarkZero, and DarkZero seems to have doubled up on this intel denial style lineup, but something that suits the downstairs site a little bit better. G2 have not been able to come to blows the way they've wanted to, barring that single frag grenade that took some life away from NJR.
It's been a very slow take from G2. They're in the last 45, and they're only now starting to open up above. DZ still has a full lineup, and despite that damage to NJR, the panel hasn't been opened up. That's going to be tricky. They're looking for the Kayaks now.
And NJR has all 3 of his smokes left. So Nitro Cell still on the board for BC. Hyper with gun in hand puts some work in the Citizen, and that'll be the very first kill. That means the final 30 seconds with 9 players still alive is going to be an absolute nightmare for both of these teams. Buckle up. For G2, this could be another round to just stretch your lead. For DZ, it could be a tie game. But G2 are just so slow on this one, and they're going to feed themselves in. Eclipse is not able to get the kill that he needs. Kayak can't get the plant down either, and you can see the look of frustration on the face of G2. 3 big kills from Hyper, and Hungry upstairs won't be able to do too much as Hyper gets a quad to finish it off. And G2 ties things up 4-4.
And you could bet if the opportunity were presented, Hyper would have gotten the ace that round. DZ firing on all cylinders, and they give G2 a taste of their own medicine in that patience, in that slow play on defense. It's working for both teams here on Consulate. Now, that specific round that we just saw, a lot of time from G2 clearing the top floor. A lot of time from G2 clearing the middle floor. And you know what? Not a lot of contention from DZ. Not really, directly confronting the roam clear. G2 just did it very slowly. Yeah, and then they got into piano. 50 seconds left, maybe a minute, and then G2 start really opening up from above to potentially put in work. But 50 seconds left and you haven't opened the main wall. Often that is the first thing a team will do in the round. You can do the full clear after opening the main wall. That is a thing that is possible. It's actually not even that complicated. It's up to you how you want to manage it. But because that wall was still closed, it added an extra 10-15 seconds to the overall round there for G2. More stuff they had to do, and it was just rushing. It was just, you can't really do anything with all the positions you've gained because you have to rush and rush. And that's why we see G2, as this becomes a tie game, taking their tactical timeout.
Smart time for Shas to settle the lads down and try to get their head back in the game. This match has been extraordinarily close, but keep in mind there was that one round that arguably should have been DarkZero's, the misplay that came in from Panbazou that ended up costing them that round. This could be a 5-3 game for DZ, in which I have no doubt that Shas would have probably called the timeout at the same time, but you have a lot more to correct at that point.
And, keep in mind, focusing on Panbazou, he has just about made up for that mistake in his performance through this match so far. He's been doing very well, as you would expect for Panbazou. That's part of why he's on this roster. A great individual fragger and young talent that has a lot of Siege left to learn. So keep that in mind with your judgment of him. I think all of these circumstances are learning experiences.
And people also need to realize that as casters, our job is to call what we see, and sometimes that involves critique. No player is above criticism, feedback, good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, one little caveat here with Panbazou that does negate some criticism is that he was thrust directly into T1 play. He had a little bit of T2 play, a little bit of experience, but almost immediately he's going straight into the big leagues. And his career has been very short. I think he's got, hang on, almost certainly he's got the shortest career of any player in this lobby. I mean, he wouldn't compare to these other players. He really hasn't. And that's impressive that he's playing as well as he is playing at this level. And yeah, that's it. Now, a little mistake here and there is not going to end a career. Especially not one as promising as his.
Nope, and I mean he's a tremendous player. So.
Is that your way of saying? Yeah. Yeah.
No, it just, I mean, it's. You don't ever want the people who are watching to think you're being conspirative, especially if there's a hive mind where people can very easily send nasty messages. I've seen players talk about that before, but that's a conversation for another
time. Yeah.
Of course, because we're now a minute into round number 9.
And notice that there has not been a pick yet.
And there has been a very sluggish amount of energy from G2.
Both teams on attack, frankly. It's been the same story here, repeated now by G2, started by DZ. And, well, the slow attacks answered by the slow defenses. The defense has been favored quite a lot in that equation. And Yeah, continuing to seek that favor, but uh-oh, look at that. Hungry will get the first pick onto Hyper, and that's your top performer for DZ gone.
Talked about Hyper being on the board, being so pivotal for this DarkZero team when he was the very first pick back in round number 1. And, well, his presence will be sorely missed. So the players on your team that you're going to expect to pick up the slack better start doing it. It has been a quiet game for NJR. That's out of character for him so far. And oh no, CTZN says, hold on 1 second. I got some killing to do. NJR could have potentially fallen victim to a grenade, but the sluggishness from G2, well, guess what? It's still netting them kills. NJR and Panbazou answer back. And on this upside-down rappel, NJR's got a tiny, tiny angle to hit. He'll just very narrowly evade yet another grenade thrown out from CTZN as Jonka gets lit up by Panbazou. And Panbazou will continue to exist in the position he's in. NJR has just made this very winnable for his team as Jonka's still on upside-down rappel. And the two players from DZ are now positioned over by the top of stairs. And CTZN somehow manages to walk away from that one. So NJR will reposition by the window. You're going to need to ensure that Panbazou is also watching that same angle. But CTZN doesn't have intel. Panbazou's been dropped as the push from G2 comes in the same direction. NJR will need to be the savior. He's got CTZN to his right. If he can cross over, he'll have to stop the plant in its tracks, but he has no information. He sees it, but CTZN's better in the duel. The timeout works, and G2 takes the lead right back.
Wow, what a kill from Jonka in the sight to open that out. As we saw Panbazou go down in sight, things became very tenuous for DZ. Although I have to say, that was certainly a round that G2 should have won. It started off great, taking down Hyper right here, and there was 2 kills for CTZN. That first one that we saw, and a second one we didn't, plus this third at the end. BC tried to his teammate downstairs. He tried to rotate to get that engagement and take out CTZN before he can nade NJR in Projector. And he just ended up being another casualty for DZ. NJR fought tooth and nail to try and bring that one back. And I feel bad for him because he put so much effort into that round, so much elbow grease, and he really did not get a lot of benefit out of it. So we'll go to the Archives Tellers defense here as G2 regain their lead.
So this is back and forth as this is shaped up to be a battle of the Titans as these two regions collide. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but G2 still has not lost to a North American team. Did that streak break at the 6 Invitational?
At the 6 Invitational, I'm not sure. At this event, I think they actually lost to
They lost to DarkZero already,
yeah.
but I meant before that.
Oh, before that?
Yes, before that.
I'm going to have to double check it. But
because I was going to make a point of reference how at this current moment DZ is the only North American team that's defeated G2. In order to do that, I want to make sure that I'm not going to be foolish and say, well, it's 6 Invitational.
It doesn't happen very often. I mean, in recent history, there hasn't been a lot of international competitions. So I'll check.
That's true. We'll pull that information for you, but if DarkZero ends up being the only team to humble G2, mind you, not the same G2 team that we knew for so long, that's obviously a feather in your cap, and I'm sure DarkZero is very happy about that one. Now for this 10th round defense, G2 sees match point. They can taste it. It awaits them, but they will need to conquer a Teller's Archives defense by DarkZero first. That'll be the obstacle to overcome. Primary focus for G2 stands at the moment to take control of admin. There's a couple bodies from DZ playing up there. Nobody really wants to give a single inch. And the characterization from this attack that we've seen thus far from G2 is it's been very slow. Methodical, plodding. You can either praise it or you can condemn it.
Well, I mean, it's mostly working for the defense, this slow strategy, for both teams, as we've discussed. But hey, G2 have been good at converting it so far, especially in that last round. Nothing yet. Admin control is solid for G2, especially with the mirror window setup. Now that means that there's a lot of investment in terms of utility that DZ has made upstairs that is not going to pay out very well because even though they didn't lose anybody, they didn't waste a lot of time either. This has been one of actually the faster attacks from G2 so far. They're setting up for that Visa pressure. Once they get that control in admin, which they have, they can start opening above the archives, and that can limit the options for C4s and make DZ's hold very difficult.
And they're still going to be able to make these calls with NJR down below. Hungry was in this same position when he was on Pulse just a couple rounds before the side swap happened. Now it's DarkZero's time to be the one to give that information. 1 minute to go. And still lots of remodeling
Attackers
being
have
done
located
by
a bomb.
Buck. Buck, an operator whose play in regular season is quite low, but you're at a pretty good mark right now. Speaking of, we want to talk about the pulse down below of NJR. Well, if you're Kayak holding onto that diffuser, you're going to need to be a little bit nimbler than you have been. Don't stop. Kayak goes down for 1 second. Eclipse gets shredded, by the way, but Kayak stopped a double from Hungry. Still in the same position. No time to reload. He's got the pistol out. G2's cleaning up on the score sheet. But Panbazou gets a free kill, as free as the day is long. Now watching towards that rotation. It's going to be Panbazou down for the count, and Hyper in a 1v3 will be what potentially seals the deal for DarkZero. Hyper manages to get one, but the Roni will require a reload. They need to grab the diffuser and start planting. They only have 5 seconds left, and their Hungry goes. You need to cover and make sure that Hyper doesn't pull this one off, because he can catch Hungry right then and there. And what an absolute showing from Hyper. Excellent gameplay. And it's a tie game.
What a massive brain play there from Hyper. How did he know the coverage would be above? What an amazing read! G2 had so much control, but the only thing they didn't control is this rotation here by Spiral. And because of that lack of control, Panbazou stops the initial plant. What an important kill. That resets the clock there. Now DZ, they have the advantage again as we start to dwindle in time. And I sincerely thought that Hyper was going to run through the door and into the waiting arms of the G2 player covering from above. And he just doesn't do that because he's playing Rooney, and he can just punch a hole in a wall, big enough to see anyone on the other side. 0-0-0 on the clock, and Hungry goes down. Beautiful play. I really thought that G2 had that, but
So did I. I mean,
yeah.
What a play by Hyper. Those last 2 kills were so enormous for his team, and I don't know if they had intel. Honestly, that's a question for a post-match interview if I've ever seen one.
Definitely, Parker. So, even round count yet again. And this is the that's the second time this has happened. I didn't bring it up the first time because it was just like 10 HP from a shotgun blast. But now it's happened again, and it's 50 HP off of your top performer. Like I know that Hyper hits heads, but just give him the best chance that you can, okay? Anyway.
Anyway, we're we might need overtime between these two teams. I mentioned it yesterday on the broadcast. I talked to Shas before he walked in the building, and I said, what's your strategy? And he said, well, just don't take DZ to overtime. It certainly looks likely, as these teams are just unable to shake each other. I will say that win or lose, it might not be any consolation for them in terms of the standings, but G2 have looked significantly sharper than they did in their matchup on Chalet. And that goes to show you that prep and maybe a little bit of nerves can completely change the outcome of a matchup.
I would blame it all on nerves, to be honest. But
I mean, G2 certainly did.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they looked nervous when they were playing yesterday. So, G2 and DZ still very lockstep with each other right now. Admin office is clear, cafeteria is controlled, opening up above to try and cut rotations. The standard stuff here from G2. Hungry is alone up here. A lot more focus being placed on Visa. Now that actually opens an opportunity, of course, for DZ to retake above, but they're counting on the fact that that won't happen because it's very unlikely for it to happen because that would be weird.
Look at this. They're just waiting on the call for Hungry's position inside a copier right now, as NJR has a Nitro Cell lineup primed and ready, and it might have 1 to 2 names from G2 on it. We will wait with bated breath and suspense, but NJR is now potentially worried about getting pushed from over towards the zone. A Mozzie drone being piloted by Hyper. That's so critical to give information, and it's still there.
Oh, the C4 could come any moment now. There it is, but baited by Hungry. What a masterful play from him to realize he was in trouble.
And that drone will continue to just scoot on by. No more information right now, as most of those players from G2 have vacated the area. It's a lobby defense, as you see that bomb chassis silhouette through the main door. Again, another slow attack. Very well orchestrated and planned. Just as I say that, though, Kayak guns down NJR from above. Jonka was there as well if they needed it, but he doesn't need to expose himself at this point. The damage that had been done earlier on to Hyper doesn't necessarily mean the best for DZ moving forward, especially in these final 30 seconds. So Eclipse will retake Banana. Jonka's got the long line of sight on him all the way from Visa. And that's not a gunfight that I suspect that Eclipse is ready for. All the while, from above, there's 2 players from DarkZero that Hungry is trying to hunt down. Hungry falls to Panbazou, they're traded off. Eclipse manages to get Jonka, and now Hyper with one as well. Kayak has to fall off, but he gets destroyed by Eclipse. CTZN the safety net, 5 seconds remain with the diffuser in hand. Match point awaits the victor. CTZN wanders on in, and he's gonna be immobile. The question is now, does Eclipse or Hyper get the kill? They give it to Tyler, and DZ move to match point.
Wow. What play there from DarkZero. It almost looked like G2 would have gotten that collapse, but not so. There are one too many players in positions that G2 just wasn't aware of. The fact that that plant was stopped in the main lobby is devastating for G2. And I find it curious, because I don't think that the planter was particularly exposed. That potentially could have been a plant for front door. And further, CTZN, oh boy, was he landing his shots. If you keep CTZN on that cover, on the the Ana, then he would have probably hit those shots, and he probably would have allowed the plant to go down. You're looking at a post plant, it's a very different story. But for some reason, the planter on G2 decided to get up and run for Mez, and he got gunned down in the process.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many
Tough
bombs
stuff.
as they can.
By the way, while we look at this match point, we do have a spoiler for you.
Attackers have located a bomb.
The spoiler is not that you can get the DarkZero skin. That's currently
But
available in the game. That's not the spoiler, so I plug your ears.
As we plug.
Team 1 just defeated BDS 7-5 in what I would say is quite an upset given the way that Team 1 has been playing so far.
Parker, what is this event?
Upsets don't matter. Well, what is it? It's best of ones.
No, I mean, yeah.
I mean, it's best of ones.
It is
where
best
you can
of
have
ones.
you can have
Yep.
a lengthy break
No,
between,
it's
right?
true, it's true.
I mean, Team 1 played much earlier today. There's been
10 seconds
5
to
hours,
insertion.
6 hours between this match and their last match.
But I mean, we're seeing
Spending lots of time on aim lab.
we're seeing completely different teams map to map. And yes, admittedly, the best of one's a major factor. But it's just, I don't know, it's been a weird event. Oh, Twitch Drone's going to get both of the Kayets. Wow, that was free. Take that. All right, cool. So G2 will be able to open up that wall real easy. They also have the Thermite, which means much bigger holes.
We've been seeing a lot of Twitch over the last couple days and being used very differently. Speculation has been that it's because the gun on land is just so strong.
So good. You got to understand, gunfights in general on land, if you've never experienced them, you can't possibly know, but it's way different.
Just night and day.
Really, yeah,
Absolutely
completely
night and day.
different. And, I mean, you can hold angles. I mean, that's crazy. Holding angles in Siege, you don't do that unless it's like a crazy off angle that no one's going to expect, or a pixel or something. Otherwise, you want to be the one peeking. But on land, holding an angle is feasible.
Device
It's a
planted.
tricky little air jab that we've seen a couple times, but
Yeah, I like that.
you know you're going to see it more and more.
Yeah, probably see that in ranked a lot more after today.
What a triumphant run this has been for DarkZero, by the way. They currently sit atop the group with 7 points. What could have thrown a wrench in the plan for the rest of the group would have been a victory for G2 here and absolutely plunged it into chaos. But what it looks like, unless G2 can salvage this last round, go to overtime, which means you go to overtime against DarkZero. But if G2 is unsuccessful here, then there'll be 10 points on the board for DZ. The likelihood of them not making the playoffs falls to basically 0. They're already a heavy favorite to make it.
I will say in this position that we find ourselves, when you're DarkZero, you're on match point and your defense, and you're just waiting out the clock, which is exactly what DZ's doing. It feels really good. It's like there's a sense of, you know, pressure that's slowly being alleviated from your chest every second that passes where one of your teammates doesn't get picked. And that's what we're seeing right now.
No, absolutely. Well, yet again, the final minute of action unfolds in front of our eyes, and nobody has faltered one bit. Every single player still alive in this lobby as G2 have taken their sweet time on every execute. They've only been successful 1 time. They're going to need to double up on that number, or else the game is over for them. It'd be a split day at this point.
There's still gas canisters, I would imagine. Yes, all 3 for NJR as we hit the last 30 seconds.
Yeah. And once again, it's going to get exceptionally messy. There's an echo in play as well. Goodness knows where those yokai drones are. And toxic gas will blanket the the entry point on in. G2 will need to barrel through head first while also watching these hatches from above, and Virtue almost gets a freebie, but BC answers back before a belated trade. G2 notices top, and they're in the midst of the smoke. Kayak breathing it in, and he's slowly dying! He's been dropped down. CTZN will need to get the diffuser, but it's Eclipse's last one alive. He's got the shotgun in hand, giving his position away. He knows how tough this is. All he needs to do is stop the plant from going down, but he doesn't have intel as to where it is. Trying to open it up, it's successful, and now the opportunity is lost. A cleanup from G2 above secures overtime, and we go for at least 2 more rounds.
Oof, that was a close one there, Parker. It easily could have been a DZ round, but not quite. Just a few seconds off, not enough denial, not enough winning those fights. This position here from Virtue, yes, it's traded out, but he did trade literally with BC, so it's a 2-for-1, and you've alleviated pipe pressure. That's great play from Virtue. Now the rest of G2 can push in through the breach, get that diffuser down, and even though the first plant attempt was stopped and there wasn't much time left, they still manage it in the end. Again, dying seconds, but that's all that really matters. One thing I find curious about that round is that DZ, they didn't decide to go for like a double flank, which is something we see a lot. Instead, you know, let's rush 2 people through security hallway. Don't know if that's the play. Most teams in that situation would try to go for a double flank up spiral or Visa to try, you know, change things, you know, give yourself some initiative when the push starts coming in. But we didn't see that, and instead we actually saw a very, very late hit flank from Eclipse, which was clearly not the play. They could have used his muscle on site, frankly.
Absolutely. A valiant effort on that retake, though, from him, but just not enough information and not enough holes that have been created in the floor. Now, the funny thing is that in a standard matchup, a lot of that floor is going to be taken out by a sledge.
More of it, yeah.
But it wasn't. It was almost suspiciously still intact.
Yeah, well, that, I mean, I would say it was planned, Parker, but their first plant attempt was behind Black Car, not White Van, so I don't know. It's a stretch. I think it was just a coinky-dink there, and I think that G2 benefited from it.
I was kidding for dramatic effect, but thank you for sucking all the fun out of it.
All right, you know what? That's what I do. They call me Captain Buzzkill.
Who calls you?
Nobody except for myself.
There you go. Excellently well done.
Thank you.
So this has been an incredibly tense match, but some of these rounds, despite it being a 6-6 scoreline, some of these rounds have been extremely one-sided. They haven't always gone down to the bitter end.
No. Now, this has been a very interesting match so far, and overtime, very important. Got to welcome everybody from the B stream over here to the A stream. It's pretty cool over here. I think you'll like it. This has been a good match.
Is the B stream done?
Well, I mean, they're watching us. I don't know if it's fully done, but they are watching us.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, what a run out from Hungary, and it punishes NJR. Nomad down for the count. This looks eerily similar to what we saw, but with it being Hyper the first casualty previously. This is a boon for G2.
Yeah, Hungary has been putting up a very impressive performance here. 14 kills for the man. He's at 20 HP though, so he'll probably die in the next fight. But he's got that cardiac sensor. This is like reminiscent of that last time when he got lit up early on, but this time he got a pick for it.
Survivability
is very important. This clear here from DarkZero is still focused on that middle floor, and it's going to be successful. There are no defenders in a position to stop this, apart from possibly C4s from below.
Bomb located by attacker.
So we talked about in the previous round where Sledge just does a number on the floor, and it allows you to actually retake through the same avenue created by the attackers. 2 nitro cells go off, and they are not anywhere near as effective as they need to be. No damage done to DarkZero off of either of those explosives.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising considering they had the cardiac sensor to guide them. But it's done now. Hungary still has 1 C4, and I imagine there are 3 gas canisters for Kayak, so the denial for the plant is still there and ready for G2 when the site attack comes. Jonka is going to push up on Black Heart. This is very dangerous the way he's positioned himself, especially as the wall is being opened. Oh, no. He's now between a rock and a hard place.
He is stuck at this point. He'll have to fight his way out. Might have a reprieve, but there's so much damage being done to him, and he knew that he was playing to die at this point. Eclipse struggling a little bit with the secure, but he wants that kill. Yes, sir. There you go. Jonka seemed almost immortal on that one. The teams now stand at even footing, but a big double play from Eclipse as now he gets CTZN as well, 2 for the price of 1. But don't count out G2. Hungry on the retake. Guns down Eclipse. Virtue's been dropped as well, so G2 does trail. Kayak getting very aggressive, but Hyper wins the duel. Hungry's the lone man up for G2. And it's almost a reverse from previous rounds. He tries to outduel Hyper, but the Bars end up being a more formidable foe as BC goes for a plant very safely far away from Hungry. And there's no way that G2 is going to be able to stop this one. Another look of frustration goes across their face. And unless we see an absolute miracle performed in front of our eyes, this should be easy for DZ to hold off. Just like that, like clockwork. Panbazou on the ground to secure the round for DarkZero.
Frankly, Parker, I might have considered that winnable for Hungry had he full HP, but he did not. The plant spot was not ideal, obviously, deep inside of Kitchen. That is retakeable, very retakeable. So, we have now seen 2 unsuccessful defenses of the bottom floor in a row. It's been pretty bad for both teams, and you mentioned it, they looked a lot like each other, but inverted. It's kind of fun to watch. Now the score 7-6. DarkZero finds themselves up 1. And the big question is, where will they go for their defense? Because they just lost the bottom floor the same way that G2 lost the bottom floor. So, I don't know.
Not sure. This is interesting. You might as well take it, right? You just won that round, but you now know that you're going to be going on to defense. You need to be a little bit apprehensive. This has been a defender-sided consulate thus far.
Very, and part of that for me is, again, and I mentioned it a few times, don't want to sound too much like a broken record, but both the attack and the defense have been very slow.
Yes.
Not unwilling to engage is the way I would describe it. And that always favors the defense if they're both doing it. If you're the attack and the defenders rather are being very aggressive, then it favors the attack, but that's obviously not what we're seeing.
Yeah.
So tactical timeout, I think this is good timing, Parker. I think, like you can even plan out both of your rounds. You could plan out your first defense, and as a contingency, you could be like, here's our strat if we go to attack. You aren't going to know necessarily what site you're attacking, but something to be considered. Well, having a pocket defense round would be huge for DarkZero right here. And they can go anywhere they want. They're not restricted at all. So whatever they decide, they're going to be well planned on it.
So, Mint, the new coach of the team, filling in for BC, who's now actively playing again.
They kind of swapped in a way.
They did swap. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
Well, you have to hope that this gives, for DarkZero fans, a little bit of insight into what to do next. Keep in mind that G2 will also be spending that time discussing how they're going to tackle it.
It's true. They're going to have some time to consider their options here. But the favor does lie at the feet of DZ, considering they get to choose the site, and G2 has no idea where they're going to be attacking.
That's correct.
Yeah. So this is, they had to do a little bit of guessing. They brought a Ying. It's interesting.
And it's not Hungry on it.
Yeah, what's up with that? Hungry had like one of the fastest aces ever on Ying.
Tremendously talented player right now, leading his team 15-9. It's the highest kills in the lobby. Next is Hyper, 14-6, just in terms of where the teams stand with their lethality.
We've got some other players that are close to. Eclipse is at 13. Impressive performance from him. He doesn't necessarily play the hard fragger roles.
Correct.
So seeing him perform like that's very important. It does give you an edge. Well, his top floor setup is interesting. Looks like they have a shield and Bosco corner, I think. Although I didn't see quite clearly. Hyper's playing downstairs. They do, yeah. Okay. So this is going to be a hard hold here for NJR. So NJR actually has been playing in Projector a lot, whether it was this is the site or otherwise. He just seems comfortable in that position, and he's done very well there. So I think having NJR there is good. G2's tried to counter him in that position a few times. It's not been working for them.
Obviously a tense round. DarkZero looking to go 2-0 over G2. G2 trying to salvage something and make it so that a shot at the group stages remains open for them. This has become a very competitive group with Damwon Kia defeating G2 last night. And Ninjas in Pajamas having some stumbles. So this second spot, this DZ looks almost certain to make it out of this group. The second spot is still very much wide open. So a lot on the line here for G2, who definitely look like they're in much better form today than yesterday.
One thing I'm worried about for DZ is them getting in their own heads here in these last 2 minutes, because they've done that a lot. We've seen them do that a lot. They did it against NIP. It's like your sense of manifest destiny starts to culminate, and oh boy, it's so exciting, and then you lose track of playing the game.
Yeah.
And I'm just, for DZ's sake, I hope that's not happening. But we'll see. G2's sake, I bet they really wish it were.
Hyper was hoping for G2 to take the bait over by Zed, but no, the drone gets spotted and then Hyper just retreats because he doesn't want to deal with it himself. So off he goes. The Mute Jammers in very obvious locations right now, confounding G2 on their entry. And with how slow G2's executes have been, and the fact that DZ favors these aggressive intel denial comms, I have no doubt that G2 will have some struggles here.
The fact that Eclipse just got out of that sticky situation with no damage incurred is huge, especially as we hit the last minute. G2 are doing everything they can to get a pick, and they're getting nothing so far.
BC's going to tempt fate playing around the bomb chassis. If he dies, so goes those gas canisters. He's still got all of them left in his pocket. He sees the edge of the rifle in the hands of CTZN. So he's going to try to police that yellow stairs corridor. Nobody can go over there. Engaging. This is a 10 shot, and BC's under fire from multiple angles, but it's Kayak with the longer range to win that one. The first pick goes in favor of G2. They're going to need 4 more. Nitro Cell from Eclipse goes off, but G2 still have not decided to get in the building yet. You've got 30 seconds left to go, lads. You've got to make it work. Kayak goes in amidst the smoke, looking for the plant to go down. He'll do it himself. Eclipse falters, but Panbazou does it. Hungary's down for the count. Panbazou finished off. Hyper's the insurance policy. Diffuser goes down, and Kayak still sits on it. Hyper knows he can't swing because there's one on the window. Pre-fire through the wall, why don't you? Maybe get a little bit lucky with that one. NJR will retake with Hyper in tow. They are, unfortunately for DC fans, at a disadvantage, and it will only get worse now, as NJR will have to go up against the rat-a-tat-tat of the Ying. That's 1 kill, but 2 more, and it's a crossfire to push us to round 15 between these two teams.
G2, what a setup. And it worked because the defenders were too slow, too passive, too far back. All the angles controlled. Bathroom window, connector window, both of the CEO windows, yellow stairs window. G2 is playing the rappel game, everybody, and it worked out great. That's part of why teams, especially North America, do not like to go to CEO any longer. And the only way to counter that type of play is to get lucky when directly trying to challenge one of those players on rappel. And I say get lucky because they have the advantage, very decisively have the advantage in that gunfight. Or to go for a run out somewhere, to go for some aggro play on another part of the map and find one of them on rappel and open that up for your teammates. Those are the ways that you counter what we just saw from G2. And DZ did not get either of those. They didn't try for the runouts, and they didn't get lucky on the engagements.
Well, sometimes it just comes back to bite you, doesn't it? That passiveness, that patience that we've seen from these teams, they understand how much is on the line, so yeah, they're going to take their time. This is a tale as old as time with Rainbow Six as well. Whenever it gets down to the last 2 rounds, teams just take their sweet time.
They really do. I mean, it's the nerves, and I was discussing it earlier. You get to this point where you're like, oh yeah, we've got this. They're right on the precipice of victory. This is our moment. And it, it swells up in your chest, and it's like a airbag inflating in your chest to the point where you can't breathe anymore. And because you can't breathe, you can't play the game well. And it does happen. I mean, it's a descent. It's a descent. Okay. The players, I mean, I've watched too many Siege games that are just like this, where they just get progressively worse as it goes on. Okay, I think we can agree on that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what we are seeing here, though, are 2 very good teams that are so close to victory, both, and there is no clear advantage for either side. And that is the best type of siege. That C4, if it had hit, would have changed everything and quite possibly would have demoralized DZ, but it didn't, and that's huge.
They like this Amaru pick from Hyper, but nothing came of it last time, if you recall. He's now in a position to potentially do some more damage. The drone will go on in and it sees Jonka, who also spots it himself, his peripheral, and now he repositions.
The only way I could see that Amaru being useful is potentially on a quick rappel in through PM. Oh, first pick here, and it's NJR onto Kayak. That's your smoke gone. Not your top performer necessarily, but definitely a formidable foe felled there by DZ.
Absolutely not that first pick that you want to surrender. Just as damaging as when Hyper was the first one killed on DZ's side of things. So now G2 is going to know what that feels like. Some of the staying power that comes in the denial from a smoke, absent.
It's also one of the 2 anchors that existed. We still have 3 defenders on the top floor. Now they're going to start rotating as we see Hungry come back, but it's just a heavy extension for G2, which leaves your site very weak.
You're going to try to play off of Virtue's position above. Amira as well on the board will allow them to see a better line of sight and angle, but I haven't seen a lot of Mira play here so far today. These are just small things for us to look at. Both of these teams treating each other with tons of respect as there's a minute to go. And with the exception of that one casualty, make it 2 as Jonka gives himself away, and he's immediately pounced on by Panbazou, who himself is under fire from above, so he'll have to scamper off, lick his wounds somewhere else, but he won't have time to do that as Virtue punishes him. But Virtue's about to lose a line of sight as there's some smoke to cut him off. Hyper takes out Citizen. Where is he flying on in? A Nitro cell from below could spell doom for BC, diffuser in hand. But Hungry's not looking to rip it just yet. The pings go in, and BC will be blown sky high. Hungry will need to be the one to save his team from defeat. It's a 1v3. DarkZero looking to put this one away and secure a spot moving forward. They've got the diffuser in hand, and this is the marathon mile for Hungry. He's got plenty of information, but that Vector's not the gun that you want in your hands. This is an almost impossible task for him. And if he plays this wrong, he'll get cut off by Eclipse, but he wastes some time. He can see that the defuse is going down, but he's not able to stop it in time, so there's a ton of gunfire going in his direction, and Eclipse will come in for the wraparound to shut him down. Scary moments there for DZ, but they stick it, and they go up 2-0 over G2 with a huge 15-round victory.
Wow, what a last round there. DarkZero, big win, but boy, did it look shaky, Parker. Oh my, the control was weird. Not anyone by Yellow Stairs for that presence. Panbazou gets gunned down as a result. The coverage for the smokes inside of Piano, that was weird. They didn't really cover the Yellow Stairs, which they knew a defender was at. I mean, there were layers of weirdness there. And once again, I do think that the whole game started to descend as we got closer to the end. But a win is a win, and DarkZero, massive one over G2. That's their 2nd time beating G2 so far at this event in the group stages.
Really amazing stuff out of both of these teams, and I know that it's a bitter pill to swallow for G2, but they do walk away with 1 point, which is enough to give them a bit of breathing room. As far as I'm aware, that now pushes them up to 2nd place in the group, 1 ahead of Damwon Kia, who play later today against Ninjas in Pajamas.
They also walk away with their pride, Parker, because that was a far closer match than the last time they played DZ. I mean, it's not even close. G2, right there, just proved that they are a competitor, and yesterday, I think many would have counted them out.
DZ are the real deal.
Yeah.
We've talked about when are they going to show up on LAN, and many players in North America have taken plenty of cheap shots against DarkZero's trophy cabinet and being absent of any international competition. Well, DZ are doing a magnificent job here in Mexico, and they've still got more matches to play, so we've still got more to see out of them. But before we can get to that, I eagerly await the desk's thought about what they would be as animals, as that's how they originally threw to us. So let's pose that same question back to them as we toss on over to Monty.
No, you already messed it up. It was not what